Okay guys, welcome back. Here we are again. We're back at our mouse build. Advanced SolidWorks here. And in our last video, as you may remember if you've been following along, we built this boundary surface right here. If I click on it, it'll highlight in the design tree, and also it'll give you a little preview of some of the stuff that we did in our last video where we added these 3 guide curves. And some of the things that are hidden are there's extruded surfaces coming off of each of these edges. They're right here. I can show them, 1 and 2. There they are. And that's so that when we attach our boundary surface, we can attach it to an actual 3D surface instead of just a single planar curve. More geometry there, so a better surface. Again, we're just planning ahead for when we have to flip this thing and mirror it. Okay, so in this video here, I'm just trying to kind of knock this one out real quick. We're going to go ahead and build the top surface, and the procedure is going to be almost exactly the same as before. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and look normal to. I'm going to try to get normal to the view that I want, which will be over here. And if we just look at this image of the mouse, all right, you can see there's this line right here, and it wraps around. If you look at the top view, you can see that this is another 3D curve, and then you've got this upper surface up here that we're going to then build off of the 3D curve that we'll build here. Okay, so just really quickly, let me just get into that, and we're going to start off on the right plane, and I'm just going to grab my spline tool. And I'm just going to very kind of carefully go click, click, and click. All right. And then I'll just adjust this until it's close to what I want. You can always adjust it later, so there's no reason to stress too much, but it's always good practice to just have a little bit of craftsmanship when it comes to laying down your curves. All right, very good. Okay, cool. So that would be my side view sketch that's going to then be used for a projected curve. Okay. Very good. Okay, now at this point I can go ahead and hide my side view because, as we know, it slows down my computer quite a bit. I'm going to then go to the top plane, and I'm going to start a sketch in the top plane. So there's my spline tool, and I'm just drawing a curve that's similar to this exterior curve. And it's going to take me just a second because I didn't set up this curve beforehand, but it'll give me an opportunity to show you how this works. All right, I got to make sure, I got to make sure that this point and this point are lined up with each other. So I'm going to click on both and just put a vertical relationship between the two. And that way I know that in 3D space, or at least here from the right plane, I can tell that this line and this line are both lined up vertical to each other. Okay. So I'm going to do that on the other side also. Just go ahead and come over here like this. And you can work in 3D. There you go. Vertical relations. Very good. I'm going to go back to normal to the top view. There we go. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the very end handle of this line, and I'm just going to put a horizontal relationship on that. And all that does is set up this curve so that later when we mirror across, we'll have at least a horizontal bit right here. We're going to do a lot with our boundary surface or our filled surface, whatever we decide to use on our top here. But this is just the very first step to building continuity between the different sides of our mirror that we're going to perform later on. Okay, so let me just see here. I want this thing to be pretty close to the edge of the rest of the model, but I want it to be done with style, and I'm kind of wondering maybe I just don't need that point. Always, guys, always we're looking for opportunities to remove points on our model. It'll just help maintain clarity. Clean curves. All right, now here we go. Let me just bring this guy over a little bit. And then just like I did on the top of this sketch, I'm going to go here to this handle. I'm going to put a horizontal relationship on that handle. And then I have to pay very, very close attention right here to what's happening. Okay, this curve is jetting off of the right plane here, and it's coming down. And there's a little bit of a dip right here. I'm just accentuating it with my mouse. It kind of like S curves out like that. And we don't want that. And also this handle here is on the top of the curve. We want it to be a little bit more like that. Okay, so we want it to dive in instead of wow out. All right. And now I'm doing that old artist trick while I draw this where I squint my eyes to try to kind of See the trees through the forest, or whatever that saying is. Just helps kind of clarify. Squint your eyes, kind of removes detail, allows your brain to process what you're looking at a little bit faster, a little bit better. All right, cool. Now, I'm not going to say that I love this sketch too much, but I am going to say that it at least is good enough for this video, and it'll help you on the road to building your own model. Okay, so there's the top view, this guy, and there's the side view. So it's time to do our project curve. I'll go to Features, Curves, Project Curve. Make sure Sketch on Sketch is selected. Get the side view, get the bottom view, and it looks like we're just riddled with problems here. Let's take a look at that. This is to prove it. Okay, so we got quite a lot of drama going on here, right? Here's the curve we just created, curve number 3. Here's the 2 sketches that are driving it, so we'll show them. All right. And then let's try to figure out what is going on with this thing, because as you can see, we've got a gap here at the back, right? And we talked about this in our last video. What happens if you find a gap? You have to go back to the curves that are driving the 3D curve, and you have to figure out why. Okay, cool. So let me just edit this, and let me see here. I'm going to look at it from the side view real quick. Try to tell what is going on. It looks like if I draw a construction curve from here up, that's not going to work. But it looks like maybe we've got a little bit of a problem here. That should work. Let's go over here to this side and see how this one's coming. All right. Now the fact that these curves aren't moving when I put on this vertical relation, that's the thing that's scaring me a little bit. So I'm going to try to add some construction curves in here to just try to clarify what's going on. So that means that I'm going to take my line tool and I'm just going to draw a straight line straight down, and I'll change it from actual working line work into construction curvature. I'll go over here, I'll grab my line tool again, and I'll draw another straight line. Remember that little yellow vertical line, that's the sketch relation that's going to tell you your line's straight. Change it into construction geometry. And now that I have those curves, I can see right away what maybe my problem is. Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. So you can see here that this line isn't perfectly lined up with that line. Although it's vertical, it's still not working. And this line's way off as well. Okay, so that just helps us understand what we got to do. So I'm going to edit this guy. Just going to take off these sketch relations, and I'm just going to, what I'll do is I'll just pierce it to the construction curve. That'll do the trick. All right, I'll do the same thing over here. That does it. So now I'm just going to look normal to that line one more time. And because I've futzed around with this line a little bit, I'm probably going to have to readjust it here a little bit so it looks attractive. All right, and same thing up here. I just want to re-add those horizontal relations on the curve itself so that I can be set up for my mirror later on. All right, good. Now I'm doing all of this while I'm inside of my 3D curve. We look over here at our design tree, right? I'm editing these 2 sketches together while the 3D curve is active. So that means that when I exit out of this sketch, I should see a fixed 3D curve. Let's check. Boom, there it is. Okay. So I like that a lot. Now that I've got the bottom curve pierced to the construction lines of the top curve, I can go back in here to this top curve, and if I want to make any sort of adjustments to that, I can easily do those. So like maybe I want to bring this forward a little bit or backward, whatever you want to call it. Everything's going to update now because this curve is stuck to that curve. All right. So you're setting yourself up with a model that's easy to work. All right, now just like in the bottom boundary surface here, I've got a couple of points along this curve. Those points would be fantastic for me to attach guide curves onto, or attach reference planes onto. I probably want to have one more point over here because remember, this is the dramatic part of the model. This is the part that's going to take the most work, so we want to put something over here. So I'll just edit this sketch. I'll go up here to my point tool and I'll just throw down a point somewhere on this line. Okay. And then with that finished, I can go ahead and start adding in planes. 1, 2. There we go. Plane. 1, 2. There's another. And we'll do one more. Okay, cool. So now I've got these 3 planes that I can then draw on to connect the curve, the top curve, which I haven't drawn yet, we'll get to. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our right plane. Look normal 2. Open up our spline tool. Just kind of ghost it, but just kind of roll your mouse off this curve here to try to understand what the curvature is going to be. You're just planning ahead. Okay, at this point you may want to show your side view again, just to kind of tighten up that curve so that you know it's matching with the very top of the mouse. I've been practicing how to mess around with these Bezier curves for a lot of years, guys, so if you're having trouble with it, don't worry, that's normal. It takes experience to treat these things with the respect that they need. Okay, so I'm going to pierce it to my 3D curve, and then I'll pierce it over here with my 3D curve. I've got my left hand on my keyboard, so I can just really quickly hit that control key whenever I need to go normal 2 or to apply my pierce relation. Okay, feeling good? Ready to go? Just about. Let's take a look at this guy. I think we'll be happy just about there. Okay. Now that we're done with that, we can go ahead and hide our side view because as regular, it is giving us slowed down performance. Now I'm just going to go in here. I'll exit out of that sketch. I'll enter into this plane. I'll draw a curve. I will go like 1, 2. And just like all my other guide curves, I draw them out in space. I don't touch them to any other part of the model when I'm first setting them down. That way I get the options, I get the control that I need in order to set them where I want them. Alright, just like before, I'm just setting a horizontal relation right on this handle right here so that later when I mirror across, I've got horizontal relations on whatever surface I build there. Okay, so that's 1. Alright, so there's that. Let me right click on here, open up another curve. I'm going to pierce it. See there, I missed the pierce, so I hit the point, held down control, tried to hit the 3D curve, and I just missed it, so I don't get the pierce option. So don't freak out if you don't see the pierce option, just means you got to try again. So there you go, a little bit more click precision, I guess. All right. And you can see how this goes when you've got this strategy memorized. It's pretty quick, right? Grab the plane you want to draw on, use your flyout menu to grab the spline tool, lay down a 2-point curve, grab the points, control, pierce, pierce. If it doesn't work, try again. There she goes. All right. You can do all of this in 3D. There you go. Okay. Now that I'm done with those guide curves, I can hide these planes because if you have been following along with my videos at all, I like to keep a clean workspace. Other things I've got going right now, I've got this curve and this curve. These are the 2 curves that are driving this 3D curve. I can get rid of those now, or at least hide them. So I'll just right click and go hide, and right click and hide. Okay. Keeping my workspace clean at all times so that I don't have to think too hard. I can just look. All right, I got some more curves down here I want to hide. All right, we're set. Okay, so let's start out with the same old tool we've been using so far. It's called Boundary Surface, and we need 2 directions here. Okay, so we're going to do direction 1 is going to be from the back to the front, so from here to here, and direction 2 is going to go across like this. It's giving me some static. Let's just clear selections and try that again. Let's try to enter in the direction 2, see if that kind of helps us. Yes, it does. So it looks like it just needed a little bit more information about which direction we were headed before it gave us a preview. That's slightly terrifying. At this point right now, we've got these guide curves. Each of these guide curves has a horizontal relation on it that is driving this surface to be tangent across the seam, but we can take it a step further by going normal to profile. Remember from our last example, normal to profile is showing because we don't have an extruded surface right here. So let's actually backpedal and do that. So I'll just close this boundary surface, open up extruded surface, use this curve to create an extruded surface. That way we'll have the geometry that we need to do a boundary surface. It does not take that long to do this, guys. Click 1, click 2. Direction 2 goes like this. All right. And you can see that, you know, the way that the boundary surface works, it starts out pretty ugly. You've got to have confidence in yourself, so you've got to just be able to push through that. Right here, now that we've got the 3D geometry, we've got that extruded surface sitting there. Look at how many more options we have for this flag. Now we have curvature to face. That's really the only one we're going to need to set, because we're going to build a surface right here that'll be able to set curvature to both surfaces. These guide curves don't require any sort of assignment as far as continuity is concerned. You can just leave them as is. They're doing the work that they have built into them. Hide that. And there we go. There's our top surface. Let's go ahead and just evaluate this surface a little bit. There's two tools that I used for that. One is zebra stripes and one is curvature. We'll turn on zebra stripes and just take a look. These are really clean surfaces, guys. I'm really happy with the way that looks. Let's put horizontal stripes on. What I'm looking for when I look at these zebra stripes are just little tiny ripples in the in these black and white stripes. There's a little bit of a one up here, but not that bad, right? But you can see this little like wobble compared to over here where they're just nice and straight. So there's some static, there's some drama happening up here. This is what they call a degenerate corner in 3D CAD. Anytime where you have a surface that comes and has to get pushed all the way up to a point. So let's just look at that with curvature on. You can see here's your degenerate point. It's black. And you can see that what the computer is doing is having to take this entire surface and kind of bunch it up and stick it and shove it into that little corner right into that point. And geometry-wise, mathematics-wise, this is a very hard calculation to make, okay, because it all comes down to a 0 point right there. I don't know enough about actual geometry, the mathematics end of it, to know what's really happening right here. All I know is that with our curvature display on, we've got a little bit of a hiccup right there. There's another tool that we could use in this scenario. So if I just delete this boundary surface and go back to where we were, we can sometimes use filled surface, which is the proper tool to use when you have a degenerate point. So I'm going to turn that on and we'll just go like this. We'll go patch boundary. And you can see the computer is thinking really hard about that one. So whenever you have a scenario where you've got like a three-sided surface or a surface that goes to a point like this, filled surface can be the proper tool to use. There's an option for constraint curves right down here, so you can actually add these guide curves into your design. And you can see little highlights and shadow kind of popping up on that surface. There we go. Very good. Happy with that. And we can also say tangent. And I'm just reviewing what happens as I change each of the parameters of this feature. Our goal is always to get to curvature, so let's try curvature. All right. Fantastic. There we go. All right, we're good with that. Let's go ahead and just say okay. Let's go ahead and hide this construction surface again, and let's take a look at this with the curvature on. Much better, much better. See that? See what filled surface does, guys, instead of boundary surface, which would try to just fill this with a surface and then bunch everything up into the corner. Filled surface will actually build like a theoretical larger surface that kind of drapes over the curves that you've defined. So we've removed the degenerate point there, and we have a much more attractive surface up here on top. We'll look at it with zebra stripes, right? You can see that little kind of ripple is gone in the center. This is real clean down here. I'm really happy with that right there. Okay, so this is a fantastic video for those of you that are following along, because it shows that with these guide curves and the 3D curve that we made, this guy right here, we can apply different tools to that cage of curves, testing boundary surface versus filled surface. We could have even used lofted surface here and seen what that did. Okay, so once you have your curve set up, you can test back and forth between these surfacing tools until you get the best result possible. And that's what takes up so much of your time, really, is testing different options to try to get the best result possible. We could have easily gone with the degenerate point of the boundary surface before and then just fixed later, but it's better to start off on the right foot. So that's what we've done here. Okay? All right. So now in our next video, we're going to be connecting a boundary surface that's going to connect these two surfaces. And we're going to have to pay really special attention to this tool up here. Remember this tool here? This is the toggle, the view curves toggle that turns your boundaries, or turns your 3D sketches on and off. All right. In order to build guide curves that are going to attach directly to these two surfaces and not to the 3D curves that are driving these surfaces, we're going to need to toggle our 3D sketches on and off using this button here. So memorize where this thing's at and get ready to use it in our next video. Okay? All right, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later.